So I graduated college in 2015. So I played at AAU in the years of 2000. I graduated high school 2011, 2008 to 2011. The internet was not what it is today. Social media, no. Instagram didn't really become popular until I was in college, and that was basically just took pictures of like birds and really for your friends. YouTube was in its infancy as compared to today. And how we consume media was few and far between. This is really important, by the way, because this is my whole hypothesis as to what's wrong with the NBA today. Now when people want to consume any NBA content, you have to, well, back in my day, I should say, you had to go to a game, you had to watch highlights on SportsCenter, you watch the top 10 plays, and maybe they picked up the dunk that you wanted to see. That was like at 6:50 a.m. before I went to school. That was like last 10 minutes of SportsCenter, the top 10 plays. The content was few and far between. There was Super Tuesday in college basketball. They showcased the big games. They had like Bracket Busters, which is they showcase the small and mid-major teams that may or may not get into the NCAA tournament. Basketball content consumption was so different. Now today I can turn on ESPN Plus and watch every single mid-major basketball game. I know every single kid, it's highlight tape, the top 100, they all have oodles of content out there. It just wasn't the same. And the mass consumption and mass production of content has really, really, really hurt basketball. So when I grew up, if you met anyone who even graced the court of a Division I, let alone NBA, an NBA professional, an NBA basketball player, there was an aura around that was hard to describe. This goes for any professional athlete, mind you, but this is about basketball, so we'll stick with basketball. And I remember seeing Arvydas Sabonis at an airport and getting his autograph. He was flying first class, but flying not private, just commercial. And that was a huge deal. Rasheed Wallace's kids actually went to my grade school, and seeing him was like mind-boggling. You would run into players in the community here and there when I lived in Portland, and it was a huge deal as a kid. Watching high school games was a big deal because you couldn't see that level of competition anywhere else. Watching a college game was a massive experience for me in high school. Going to March Madness was something I had dreamed about to go. Went and watched Gonzaga play UCLA, where Adam Morrison cried after the loss. These are all monumental games in my basketball career. All because they came with a special expectation and a rarity, a scarcity to it. Nowadays, the NBA is everywhere. You can watch every highlight, every dunk, and anything in between. And let me just simply captivate this idea of how basketball has lost its aura because people have lost the respect for how good these players are due to content consumption. When I grew up, Dwight Howard put on that Superman cape and did whatever that dunk was, threw at the backboard at NBA dunk contest, and it was the biggest deal. Vince Carter's dunks, plural, the 360, the windmill. The dunk contest was insane. You would go there. You'd go watch the dunk contest. J.R. Smith blow out a cupcake candle on the rim. And it was like you would ooh and ah and talk about that. And you would debate your friends about it. And any dunk, by the way, as a kid, was a big deal. You go to a camp, someone would dunk a basketball. I'm like, oh my gosh, wow. Nowadays, someone will throw down a 360, a windmill, a between the legs, and no one reacts. No one. No oohs and ahs, just as if they could do it. And that's the issue, is it's almost like we have been blessed with too much great content that we have ruined how good these players are. The people to think that they can even do what a Division I player does, let alone an NBA basketball player. This is someone who trains and works with guys at that level. It's ridiculous. And we've lost a lot of that. And our content consumption and our content creation is centered around not propping people up anymore, but it seems to almost be finding flaws in people. You know, we build people up just to tear them down. LeBron doesn't have a bag. A bag? What are you talking about? The best players to ever touch the court. And what we think is good basketball is not necessarily good. Look at this move, this crazy da 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 da. And this is coming from someone who grew up in the and one mixtape era. You want to talk about bad basketball moves? And one mixtape, man. They just taught you to put a ball in your shirt, smack it. I mean, they weren't good moves in terms of basketball, but it was fun, creative, and exciting. It exposed you to a lot. But no one was being fooled and think like, oh, this and one move is going to work in a game, or that's what makes someone good. But nowadays you watch highlights and anyone and everyone just wants to showcase the coolest move possible, a guy who's not going to get any court time. The expectations of basketball have changed. People want to get highlights. They want to get clips. It's no longer about competing and winning. I'm not talking about the NBA. Basketball as a whole. One of the purest forms of basketball is when you have to wait 20 minutes to get onto a court. And if you lose on 5-on-5, you can't get back on that court. You have to go home and realize you spent your day not playing because you didn't go out there and compete at a real game of pickup basketball. Instead, you're out there, people trying to film everything, get clipped. I film stuff. This is coming from a guy who films stuff. But the purest form of basketball is when you have to wait to get on. You have to compete. And the competition side of basketball has dwindled so far that people don't respect how good people are. They just don't. The competitiveness seems to have dissipated. I remember growing up, we'd play Saturday mornings. We'd have about 18 people there. And it was a big deal if you lost and had to wait for your 5 to get back on the court. That was a big deal. It was frustrating. You didn't want to wait. You'd show up to a gym. Who's got next? If you lose, you're off. You got to wait, get in line. That evoked competition, the competitive spirit of basketball, to try and get a rebound and win, but also to realize how difficult basketball is. Because every now and then, some dude who was a dude would show up to those games and dog walk everyone in there. And you would realize, oh my gosh, I ain't that good. And this guy doesn't even play anywhere. And every now and then, you'd be graced with someone who played Division I at a high level. And they'd dog walk people in there. And then maybe you get invited to someone to play, and you might stumble across a guy who's maybe touched an NBA court. And people can't even understand how far they are from them. But nowadays, we don't see that because we have people just commenting about the negativity of it. Commenting about, oh, there's too many threes being taken, this and that. Yes, there are structural aspects of the game that probably should change that would evoke better competition. The schedule's insane. You play every other day. You're traveling all the time. The games are long. The court is gigantic. The players are huge. The athletes don't look as fast on TV because they're just so unbelievably athletic, and they're all athletic, so there's no disparity. It's difficult as a consumer to even understand how great these players are. But I think it stems from the cultural aspect. As AAU has lost its aura. AAU used to have an aura. The ABDC camp I believe it was called. Isn't that the one where Tracy McGrady got his big chance? Some guy didn't get invited. T-Mac got invited, tore it up, put himself into the level where he is now or was. The Pangos camp. You would only be able to play in an Adidas Super 64 if you were in an Adidas sponsor team. Getting a shoe sponsorship as a team was huge. There wasn't an EYBL. There was the Disney AAU tournament. I'm not sure which one that was called. There's like 100 teams would go out there to play in Orlando, Disney World. That was a big deal. You'd have Vegas was a big deal. You'd have Hacks in LA, which maybe was a short-lived but kind of potent run. You had these teams where guys would go and play with the best players, and they would compete. I remember watching, Athletes First was a team, and it was Daniel Orton and Xavier Henry, and I'm sure some other dudes who were studs were on that team. I remember going to watch that game. There weren't tons of people in the crowd. There weren't cameras anywhere. It was just dudes getting buckets. Yeah, I remember it to this day. Like, these guys were so good, but it wasn't about the oohs and ahs and someone gets dunked on and you head tap everybody. Because you might dunk on somebody, but if you're losing by 30 points, you should feel embarrassed. Like, that doesn't make the game, the fact you scored 2 points. It's like everyone wants to celebrate all the time. They want their flowers now. And I get that. But somehow we've removed the competition. Maybe it's because people are just trying to get money from people so everyone can play. Everyone come and play in this AAU tournament. Everyone gets a videographer. You had to be good to get a mixtape, man. Austin Rivers was the type of guys getting mixtapes that you would watch. Yay Area's finest. Pee Wee and Kiwi Gardner, Aaron Gore, Jabari. There's two. Jabari Parker played for Duke, Jabari Bird, and then there's Jabari Brown. Two of those Yay Area's finest. Jabari Parker was Duke, Chicago. But you had to be good. You had to be good. Quincy Miller, right? I believe his name was one of those dudes out of North Carolina. They all had these little, like, regional mixtapes that would come out. And you would, maybe we won enough games, we'd get in front of them if we were good enough. And we played against guys like Tyler Johnson, playing the Miami Heat. Played with Devontae Adams on my high school team. You know who Devontae is. Played against Aaron Gordon. Marcus Lee, apologize. Marcus Lee played for Kentucky and Cal. I don't know if he ever made it in the NBA. A bunch of other dudes. I'm not here to list guys that played against in high school. But the point is, in high school, like, those dudes didn't even really have mixtapes. Devontae didn't have a mixtape like that. Aaron Gordon did, because Aaron Gordon was top of the top. It's just so crazy. I mean, the content consumption was very different. And it wasn't the attempt to chronically justify yourself or showcase yourself in a way that evoked followers or clout or whatever. It was like you were trying to dog someone. I remember we played Aaron Gordon. We lost him twice in our conference finals. He just come out there and dunk on us. It wasn't like he was out there trying to showcase X, Y, or Z. Just would come out there. Archbishop Mitty would come out there. I played for Palo Alto High School. They'd come out there and just give us the business. It wasn't ooh and ahs. It was like, come out there and they were going to put 30 on us to try and beat us. And they did. They were good. And we knew that. It wasn't about whoa and dancing and stuff. And AAU was the same deal. You go out there and play. When we were trying to play AAU, we weren't the best team. We didn't have videographers. We didn't have cameramen. Our coach was like, look, if you want scouts to see, you got to win games. You have to win. Compete. It wasn't clips. You had to get to the championship for any coach to see you. So, I mean, that's how it works. It's just all about trying to compete, and the competition side of basketball is gone. It just is. It just doesn't exist like it used to. And I don't know what's going to bring that back. I don't know if we're going to have a pendulum swing, but that flows upward to the complaints about the NBA because everyone is so saturated with kind of the shenanigans of basketball at lower levels that even college has lost its lure. It's hurt skill development at the college level. The NBA guys are so darn skilled. It's on people don't even respect it. I think there needs to be some changes to how content is consumed, maybe how people play, like a 3-on-3 league, like Unrivaled, what the WNBA is doing. More pro-am tournaments, more things for people to go out and see why these players are so darn good. And I think they'll help the ratings because people will want to watch and want to appreciate. But right now, they don't know how to appreciate basketball. I hate to say it, they don't. It seems that the average consumer doesn't know how to appreciate basketball. If you don't know the minutia of a very tasty meal and how a steak is cooked, then you can't tell a difference between something you get from Applebee's and something you get from a Michelin star restaurant. You're not going to be able to tell the difference between pickup basketball and the NBA if we don't appreciate the finer things in life. You know, just because your Chrysler 300 looks like a Bentley don't mean it is. Got the same grill, it's not the same ride. Same deal with basketball. We don't appreciate the finer things anymore because we're so saturated with the weirdest content possible that we've lost. And the generation now consumes content, doesn't really consume or understand what makes these guys so good. So I'm trying to figure out in my head what would make sense. I don't have a solution. If I had a solution, someone would pay me more money. But I just want to share with y'all, that's one of my problems with basketball right now. And maybe problems with it on the whole. And hopefully in the future it changes. Maybe it won't. Maybe just, I'm not sure where the pendulum will swing, but, things have a way of leveling out. And I don't know, man. That was money in college, a lot of money in college. Maybe they'll evoke some level of competitiveness beyond what it has been for the lower level stuff, because people can get paid earlier. When you get paid earlier, you become a pro earlier. You become a pro earlier. You take things serious earlier. You take things that matter more seriously earlier. So I don't know. Maybe it hurts though. Maybe because these guys get all these clips and they get paid out in college. It just hurts the skill development. I don't know. We'll see. Well, if you made it this far, I appreciate y'all. Enjoy. Take care.